So, welcome to episode 7 of Exposing the False Narratives of Jeff Durbin. This will be our last episode, and so we're going to just jump right into it and hear what he has to say.
Joseph Smith said, many men say there is only one God in the history of the church. He says the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are only one God. He says, I say that's a strange God anyhow. 3 in 1, 1 in 3. It's a curious organization, all to be crammed into one God according to sectarianism. He said he'd be a wonderfully big God. He'd be a giant or a monster. He says, I wish to declare I have always and in all congregations when I have preached on the subject of the deity, it has been on the plurality of gods.
All right, so one of the things that Jeff does, I've noticed, is he's really good at quoting. So he quoted a very long thing that Joseph Smith said. And as I want to do, and I hope that you want to do, I decided to actually research what he was claiming that Joseph Smith said. I took part of that quote and I plugged it into AI and I asked AI, where is this found? Well, it turns out that Joseph Smith, not long before he was martyred, a couple of weeks before, gave a sermon called the Sermon in the Grove. And I'd never heard of it before. So once again, thank you very much, Jeff Durbin, for bringing up things that we supposedly believe so I can actually go out and learn about them and research them. What Jeff did was to take a big quote, this big, and pull out a portion of it and toss that portion away and result in what he actually gave you. But I want to take this quote that Jeff Durbin gave and put it actually into context if I can. And I'm going to do this in kind of a little bit of a reverse order of how it appears in this particular record. So all I want is to get the simple, naked truth and the whole truth. Many men say there is one God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost are only one God. And this is where Durbin kind of comes in. I say that is a strange God anyhow, 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. It is a curious organization. And then he jumps down and he says, it would make the biggest God in all the world. He would be a wonderfully big God. He would be a giant or a monster. That's what Durbin's quote is. What he leaves out is this part right here in the middle that I'm going to read. Father, I pray not for the world, but I pray for them which thou hast given me. Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. That is directly from John 17, the intercessory prayer. And what Joseph Smith is trying to say here is if there is God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they're only one God, and then Jesus Christ asked the Father to make all of his disciples that God had given him, the Father had given him, that they may be one as we are one. And then the last part of what Durbin says, all are to be crammed into one God according to sectarianism. And that's Durbin. Durbin is a sectarian. He's not a Christian in the sense of what the Bible actually teaches us. He doesn't believe these things. Father, I pray for them which thou hast given me out of the world, and not these alone, but for them also which believe on me through their word, that they may be agreed as thou, Father, art with me, and I with thee, that they also may be agreed with us. And what Joseph Smith is doing here, where he says that they may be agreed, he's actually translated the word that one, that they may be one, came from, to agreed. So he's retranslated that correctly to be agreed, and this makes a whole lot more sense. But let's go back up here, and I'm not going to be able to do it all right here in this part, but I want to focus on this word right here. Elohim is spoken of in the Old Testament, particularly in reference to Genesis, Elohim. And Elohim is actually uh, two words, a pluralization of Eloi, Eloi. Him at the end is like putting an S at the end of a word in English to make it plural. And so where that occurs, it's plural all the way through. The heads of the gods appointed one for God for us. And when you take that view of the subject, it sets one free to see all the beauty, holiness, and perfection of the gods. So, and if you recall, when Jesus was on the cross at the very end, he said, Eloi, Eloi, and I can't remember how to pronounce each of the additional words, but basically is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And in that case, Eloi is singular, and he's talking to his God. And why would he do that if he was God? If he was the Father? He's talking to the Father, who is God, and he uses the singular there. So the real thing I want to point out, and whatever else Jeff had to say in this, the real thing I want to point out here is he's really good at leaving out the full context of things, right? So he left out this portion of that quote, which gives it context and substance. And so whatever else Jeff had to say in this particular clip from his video, this is the one thing I want to point out. Whenever you listen to Jeff Durbin talk, or any other person who is talking against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you need to be very careful. Take the time. You hear what he says, make a few notes, and then go do the research so you can put what he is saying into context with what he has said. And I would venture to say that 99 to 100% of the time, you'll figure out he's preaching a falsehood. He doesn't give the context of what Joseph Smith was actually saying. So I encourage you to do that. God the Father is the only God with whom we have anything to do. He is the supreme ruler. I've talked about this before in the last episode. But that's what you need to do. You need to listen to him, and then you need to take what he says with a grain of salt, do your own research, put it into context, and learn the truth. And I think most of the time you're going to find he's just speaking falsehoods. And that's what I have to say. That's the end of this episode, and that's the end of this short series of 7 episodes. I appreciate you listening. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I hope you'll like this. I hope you'll pass it on to friends and family. So I hope as I move along and I'm able to show how these individuals present their myths and their false notions, that you'll be able to pick up on that yourself, and you'll start not trusting them, but you'll start trusting yourself, that you'll question everything and that you'll do your own research. And I leave that with you until the next time we get together.